Well, let's get more now on the measures being eased tomorrow across England. Retailers are making final preparations for a big reopening as the next stage of the government's roadmap is triggered. But as shops, pub gardens and hairdressers hope to cash in on a pent-up need for services, many will begin to discover who has survived 3 national lockdowns and who hasn't. Well, joining us now is the retail analyst, Kate Hardcastle, and should we go to that most important question first? There's been lots of very concerned predictions about how the high street in particular is going to have survived the last year. What is your sense?
Quite honestly, the situation was quite challenging prior to COVID even hitting the shores, in the fact that our high street has gone through significant change for a big period of time. And perhaps the measures and changes and strategic thinking around what our future high streets looks like has been very intermittent in terms of the success rate for our towns and cities. So if you add into the fact that then we've seen on and off lockdowns, we've got a lot of businesses, particularly small businesses, that have been significantly hit by that. We've seen many pivot, but at the same time, we've seen many considering closing completely. And then we've heard very big national brands like John Lewis and Marks and Spencer's put out very clear statements that they are having to, Marks and Spencer's whole raison d'etre at the moment is going to be never the same again. So these are big strategy changes, which have both seen the announcements of many store closures. I'm afraid that we're probably going to see a more challenging picture before we see a better one, because a lot of our high street's been very reliant on retail and hospitality. And as we evolve into a new era that might see more social activities, we're probably going to see a lot of big gaps whilst our high streets come into a new era.
That's interesting, actually, that you're sort of saying that it's kind of speeding up changes that perhaps were already happening in the first place. Do you think that some people who started shopping online during lockdown or certainly shopped more online are not going to actually change their habits? They're just going to keep going the way they are?
We've seen billions of pounds being spent in addition online, and I think businesses like John Lewis have put a measured statement out saying that they see 60% of their business now being online. So this is very real. Many consumers do love the experience of traditional bricks and mortar retail. And I, for one, feel it's a really important part of our communities and our social stance. And I think that the vibrancy of our high streets will come through a mix of small and big businesses there. I know that words matter, so I know that positivity is going to be so important for those businesses reopening tomorrow. But at the same time, we've got to be realistic. The shopping experience that people get on reopening tomorrow will be similar to the one I saw when we started to see the reopen after the first lockdown in summer. It's going to be very sterile. Of course, there's going to be safety measures in place because that's what consumers want first and foremost. That often means, Sophie, that the dwell time, which is so important in retail, i.e. the time we might spend in addition to the purpose that we've gone for, might not be in place. And therefore, that can really have an impact in terms of the money we spend in the high street. What we've got to hope is that a mix of goodwill, people wanting to get back out again to be social, the need to go out to maybe restaurants, cafes, gyms, more of the social elements that are out there. And in addition to that, big and quick change in terms of our future high street is going to help the social mobility and see us have a more vibrant future there.
And as you say, you know, the social aspect of the high street really important. But do you think that a lot of businesses, restaurants, pubs and so on just won't be able to open because they don't have the outdoor space necessary?
I think a lot of hospitality industry particularly is going to be hindered because of that. And I think there is a microclimate in terms of how these small businesses feed into each other, be it the office workers that go to get a coffee on the way into work or pick up a sandwich for lunch that might not be there, and the people that perhaps use a theatre or a night out as a reason to go for a meal earlier before the performance. All of these things connect and all of these things help breed extra spend. And I think that's going to really hit those businesses opening again tomorrow. We've got to be resilient and we've got to be hopeful for our future high streets. There isn't the death of the high street, it's an evolution. But I truly think a lot of change could have happened before now, that we didn't have this situation where so much of the high street hangs its hat on that retail space, because it was quite clear the picture was coming. Yes, we've seen significant change over the last 12 months and it's grown at a massive rate, but obviously that change was afoot.
Bit of a wake-up call then. Kate Hardcastle, thank you very much for coming on the programme.